The Old Firm derby is more than just a football rivalry. It's a clash deeply rooted in Scotland's history. For over a century, Celtic and Rangers have come to represent opposing sides of a cultural, religious, and political divide. As the clubs grew, their footballing rivalry became the ultimate battleground for these competing identities, with the tensions spilling far beyond the pitch. For this is not just a game, it's the Old Firm derby, a rivalry that splits Glasgow and resonates across Scotland. But where did it all start? To get a true sense of the Old Firm derby's origins, we need to head back to the 19th century. 1872 saw the formation of Rangers Football Club, established by four founders: brothers Peter and Moses McNeil, William McBeath, and Peter Campbell. First setting up shop in West End Park, Glasgow's newest outfit would compete in regional and national cup competitions alongside other newly formed clubs. 15 years later, soon-to-be arch-rivals Celtic Football Club were formed by Irish Marist Brother Walfrid at St Mary's Church in November 1887. Created initially to help raise money for poverty-stricken immigrants throughout Glasgow's East End, the links between Celtic, the Irish diaspora, and Catholicism were tightly woven from day dot. Initially known as the Bold Boys, over the coming years this nickname would be adapted to pay homage to the club's Gaelic roots, evolving into the Bold Boys, and then eventually, as they are commonly known now, the Boys. The first encounter between the two teams took place on May 28, 1888, with Celtic proving victorious, winning the game 5-2. A couple of years later, the inception of the Scottish Football League for the 1890-91 season planted the seeds of a growing rivalry. Rangers, one of 10 founding members of the league, and now playing at Ibrox, finished joint top of the inaugural season, sharing the title with Dumbarton after a playoff draw. Joint honours were awarded for the only time in the league's history. 2 seasons later, Celtic, having moved from their original ground on Dalmarnock Street to Celtic Park, pipped Rangers to the title by 1 point, securing their first Scottish championship. By the turn of the century, Rangers had taken the mantle as Scotland's dominant force, winning consecutive league titles. However, after one of the new wooden stands at Ibrox caught fire in a Scotland-England fixture in April 1902, a tragedy which killed 25 and injured hundreds of others, a financially distressed Rangers would have to sell off their best players in order to fund their stadium rebuild. Celtic, of course, were only too happy to take the place of their cross-city rivals as the country's dominant footballing force, going on to win 6 successive titles between 1905 and 1910. The story goes that the Old Firm label was first coined around the Scottish Cup final in 1904, featuring another and now lucrative meeting between Celtic and Rangers. Financial incentives would continue to dominate the narrative between the two clubs, and 5 years later, supporters of both teams rioted together at Hampden Park around the 1909 Scottish Cup final, claiming a money-spinning fix after a second replay of the final was scheduled, following 2 prior draws between the Glasgow rivals. Matches between the two teams consistently served as a big fixture in the Scottish football calendar, and the battles on the pitch continued to grow in intensity, a precursor to the following decade where the rivalry would cascade and politics would become further entrenched within the identity of both clubs. In 1912, Belfast shipbuilders Harland and Wolff set up shop in Glasgow, alongside hundreds of Ulster Protestant workers who similarly relocated to Scotland. Although in a new home, the company continued their old anti-Catholic hiring practices, and the new workers adopted Rangers as their football team. Increasingly, the ties between Rangers, Protestants and Unionists grew stronger, further creating a wedge between the two teams and giving birth to fierce sectarianism in Scottish football. From this point onwards, a line in the sand was drawn. Catholics would almost exclusively support Celtic, whereas Protestants and British Unionists would support Rangers. Now, fast-forwarding to the years following World War II, and both Celtic and Rangers had re-emerged as dominant forces in Scottish football. While Rangers enjoyed early dominance under their most successful manager of all time, Bill Struth, with Scott Simon then taking over the reins and continuing their winning ways, bagging multiple league titles, Scottish Cups and League Cups. Celtic themselves went on to experience a golden era in the 1960s under the leadership of legendary manager Jock Stein. Taking over from former captain now manager Jimmy McGrory in 1965, Stein quickly brought success back to the boys, first with domestic honours, followed by a truly remarkable season in 1967, where Celtic won every competition they entered. Amongst this, Stein's Celtic team made history, becoming the first British club to win the European Cup by defeating Inter Milan 2-1 at the Estadio Nacional in Lisbon on May 25, 1967, and earning the players the nickname of the Lisbon Lions. Needless to say, this infuriated everyone associated with Rangers, and they would have to wait until 1972 before they won their own European trophy, defeating Dynamo Moscow 3-2 at the Camp Nou, lifting the European Cup Winners' Cup at the third bite of the cherry. Across the 70s and 80s, the old firm would dominate domestically, routinely sharing out the Scottish League titles and cups between one another. But despite both teams now being steeped in success and with a rich history behind them, the ferocity of the old firm derby would continue to grow. The ratcheting up of animosity between the two clubs and fan bases once again owed itself to politics as much as football. Starting in the late 60s and continuing till the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, the Troubles were a political and nationalistic conflict deeply rooted in historical events and characterised by a pronounced ethnic and sectarian divide centred on the status of Northern Ireland and the relationship with the British. The rivalry during this period was intense, with every derby match representing more than just a game. It was indeed a war for footballing dominance on Scottish pitches, but moreover a battle fought largely in the streets and stands as sectarian violence in Glasgow erupted. In the late 80s, there was another flashpoint that highlighted the strength of the old firm rivalry. For decades, Rangers adhered to an unofficial policy of not signing Catholic players. However, this policy was breached in 1989 with the groundbreaking and controversial signing of Johnston, a former Celtic star, sparking outrage among fans of both clubs. From this point onwards, Rangers would be imperious in Scotland's top flight, winning 9 consecutive titles between 1989 and 1997, the first 3 under Hardman Graham Souness, and the subsequent 6 steered to by Walter Smith. Interestingly, the 1990s brought a new level of intensity to the old firm derby as both clubs entered the modern footballing era, but also a newfound glamour to the rivalry, as the two Scottish giants were able to lure high-profile players from England and across the continent to play in Glasgow, with the allure of consistently playing in European competitions, at a time where hooliganism below the border saw English teams routinely banned from said competitions. Players like Trevor Stephen, Brian Laudrup and Gazza brought true star quality to Ibrox and helped power Rangers in their modern era of dominance. Under the management of Wim Jansen and later Martin O'Neill, Celtic began to fight back, with players like Pierre van Hooijdonk, Paolo Di Canio and club legend Henrik Larsson injecting a new energy to proceedings at Celtic Park with their own star-studded quality. The Noughties would see honours aplenty for both teams, but in 2012, Scottish football was rocked by unprecedented events off the pitch. Years of financial mismanagement caught up with Rangers, who were then forced into liquidation. The club was demoted to the bottom tier of Scottish football, and for the first time in over a century, the old firm derby vanished from the top flight, leaving Celtic to dominate the Scottish Premiership in Rangers' absence. But the rivalry was far from finished. In 2016, Rangers finally returned to the Premiership, reigniting the fierce battle for Glasgow. The years apart had vastly weighted the balance of power in Celtic's favour, but Rangers were determined to chip away at the now significant disparity between the two clubs, bit by bit and season by season. Their efforts culminated in the 2020-21 season, led by Steven Gerrard, where they ended Celtic's dominance by claiming their 55th league title in emphatic fashion, going unbeaten throughout the entire season and depriving Celtic a 10th consecutive championship. Today, the Old Firm derby remains one of football's fiercest and most passionate rivalries. While overt sectarianism has diminished, the cultural and political divides that have shaped this clash for over a century endure. Every match is a battle for dominance in Scotland, a fight for identity, pride, and the heart of Glasgow. Two clubs, two histories, one unrelenting rivalry. The Old Firm derby is far more than a game. It's everything. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like, comment and share if you enjoyed this one, and stick around for the next video on the Football Documentary channel.